So, Shroud dupes you into a trap where he destroys the Mecha Man suit and puts you in a coma for months.
I didn't hear a question in there.
Does this mean you're finished?
Can you repair your
Mecha Man!
Up next, is Mecha Man a mecha quitter?
Figured my story would always end in that suit.
It's time for you to accept that you don't got it anymore. We need you behind that desk to help actual heroes. Now, get your flat ass off my bench.
Looks like the Red Ring was behind this.
No problemo.
Can I get ice down here?
Got it. I need you guys to focus.
Heard the team scuffling with the Red Ring.
We are bound to bother them at some point.
If you poke the hive, you're gonna have to fuck the queen.
That's not how bees work. But if we kill the queen, we rot the hive.
You would do that. Kill Shroud.
I'm flying blind, can't see anything.
Busy, look out!
You wanna get people hurt? Get people killed?
A real hero puts their ass on the line.
Come on!
Just be careful, kid. The answers are out there if you just listen to the wind.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Joygasm, a video game and movie podcast. I'm Russ, and AdHoc Studio has struck gold in episode 334 today, November 18th, 2025. We're going to be going right into our topic of the day, which is Dispatch Game Review. Now, for full disclosure, how about that? I didn't know this game existed until approximately 2 weeks ago. And even then, I just happened to stumble upon it on social media. I saw some sort of video clip and I was really struck by the art direction, loved kind of the 2D, 3D visuals with like a little pinch of anime kind of sort of thrown in. So I decided to give it a shot. And the first thing I noticed was the price tag. I was like, oh, wow, $30. $30 is quite lovely. I like me a $30 game, especially in today's world when several of the larger publishers are trying to push $80 price tags on us, you know? So definitely happy about that. And what I wasn't prepared for was actually how tremendously awesome this game is. And I mean that wholeheartedly. I was not prepared for this. And I did some research behind the company of AdHoc Studio, and I discovered that there are several folks who came from Telltale Games, which I've been a fan of their titles, especially The Walking Dead, for a while. And I was bummed to hear about how that studio just kind of, I think the last I heard about it was that they were shut down or they had tremendous layoffs, one or the other. And then the other piece of information was that there are a number of folks from Ubisoft who joined AdHoc Studios as well. So definitely really happy to see these guys be able to come together and be able to have a little taste of success here, because in the first 10 days, I believe, that the game came out, they have sold over 1 million units. So bravo. Very, very cool. Oh, where to begin on this game? Where to begin? The premise itself, well, I guess I should say at the top of the show, I will be going into some minor spoilers. So if you haven't played the game, you may not want to watch this, but if you don't care, then carry on. The game premise itself is that you play Robert Robertson, who is this superhero, but you don't have supernatural abilities. You're actually a normie, but you have this really awesome mech suit, and your alias is called Mecha Man, which is conveniently close to Mega Man. But you know what? I dig it. And throughout the game, you encounter different types of superheroes that have different types of supernatural abilities, and you're down on your luck, and you end up getting recruited to be a dispatcher for this particular outfit that essentially sends out heroes out to different types of distress calls. Think of it as like a police station, and you get 911 calls, but instead of the police going out, you have superheroes going out to these different calls. And so it's your job to manage this motley crew misfit of different types of recently reformed villains. So they used to be villains, but now they are heroes in the making, I guess you could say. So it's really cool in the sense that the whole setup definitely piques my interest and my curiosity, because I'm a big fan of comic books. I'm a big fan of superhero movies. That's one of my favorite genres. So already I'm like, okay, where is this going to go? What I can't believe is the writing itself is some of the best writing I have heard in a video game, bar none. And there have been some doozies, man. I've been playing video games for a long time, and I'm here to tell you the writing in this, not only is it incredibly humanized, but also too, it's funny. And let me tell you, comedy is a hard thing to do. Like when you're trying to tell a narrative and you want some laugh out loud moments and that sort of thing, it takes a certain type of skill to be able to elicit that from your audience. And as far as I'm concerned, they did that in spades. It's amazing to me how many moments there were that were just funny. It was just comedic gold. At the same time, it wasn't just limited to being like a comedy sitcom type of format, although that is largely what it is. You know, it's episodic in nature. It's, you know, kind of like what Telltale has done in the past. But this one in particular really struck me in the sense that it left me wanting more. And I discovered this game when episodes 1 through 6 were released. There's a total of 8 episodes. And, you know, I felt fortunate in the sense that I didn't discover this game until later on, because I think I would just be in torture mode for every week having to wait until, I think it's like every Wednesday they dropped an additional 2 episodes. Luckily, I only had to do that for episodes 7 and 8, but let me tell you, that was a hard thing to do, was to wait. However, at the same time, I love the format of that. I love the idea of an episodic single-player cinematic narrative. I think it plays extremely well. I think it's brilliant how the overall art direction is taken in a sense that where, like, you're not... Let me back up for just a minute. Normally in games, you'll have like pre-rendered cinematics, and then you'll have the actual real-time gameplay, right? The graphics are a bit of a departure between the two. However, in this game, they have elected to actually go full pre-rendered cinematics, and essentially the game will just play certain clips based off of the choices that you make in the game. Really, really cool, because it keeps the visual fidelity really, really high with these high production values. And it's really cool because you still, as a player, get to interact and make decisions that have consequences as you go through the story. So it's super cool. I am digressing a little bit. So let me go back a little bit to the writing itself. The writing, in addition to being funny, is also very heartfelt. Like, you have moments of frustration, moments of sadness, moments of loss, moments of encouragement, moments of victory, moments of even like feeling betrayed. I mean, like there was a lot that they have packed into that is very organic in nature, which I appreciate. I think that's really, really cool that, you know, within only 8 episodes, what a lot of TV shows try to do and come up short on, these folks did it, and they caught lightning in a bottle. I mean, it's amazing, like the roller coaster emotional ride that you go on throughout this entire gameplay experience. Now, what's interesting is that because it's predominantly more of a visual storytelling experience, the gameplay itself is more on the light side, right? Where like you're choosing different types of decisions that will impact your relationship with various characters or the outcome of different things. And then you also have kind of more of your dispatcher duties, where they've incorporated these gameplay mechanics of really two main things. The first being that you have your kind of your roster of your heroes, and then you have this kind of view of a portion of the city, which I think is based off of, I want to say Torrance. It was in LA, but you'll have these random types of calls come up, and you have to make the best choice possible in terms of who you should send, who's the right person for the job, right? And so it becomes this whole game of management, which is, at first blush, like you're just like, wow, if someone were to try and tell me that verbally, I don't know if I would think that would be something that I would consider fun. It is fun, you guys. It is really fun because sometimes you'll have multiple calls come up at once and you're not exactly sure how you're going to be able to mitigate this. And you may have assigned a hero to something that you thought was pretty decent for, but then another call comes up that they would be even more of a perfect fit for, but they're already out and about taking care of this other fire, so to speak. So the idea of it is that they have this kind of infographic that comes up and then has this little dot that ping pongs around, almost like a game of chance, if you will. Like folks who play D&D are going to be very familiar with all this. And as long as you make it within that radius, then the call ended up being successful as to who you sent out for that particular situation. The second part of it, though, is hacking, which, again, there's just enough of it where, it helps to break up some of the situation of what's going on and makes you feel more involved with the team. And it's interesting. I was talking to my friends about how I am used to different types of games that are, much more heavy on the gameplay mechanics, right? They take advantage of every single button on the controller. In some instances, you almost kind of wish that you had an extra button because of how many different things that you can do with your character and so forth. And believe me, there's a place for that. But what I find so refreshing is the contrast with a game like this, where it is very intentionally scaled back to essentially doing the dispatch thing of sending out heroes to different calls, having the hacker side of things. They do have kind of a Dragon's Lair, Time Gal, Road Warrior, or Road Avenger. I can't remember the name of the Sega CD title. That dates me. But kind of that time-based reactionary gameplay as well. So sometimes if Robert is actually in the midst of some kind of fisticuffs or what have you, there are moments where you have to press the X button at the right time or use kind of a directional trigger combo, that sort of thing. So there are these little moments where you do get to feel like you get to participate somewhat into that action, but it's not like an Elden Ring or a Ninja Gaiden or anything like that. And that's okay. That's totally okay. I do think it's worth mentioning too that AdHoc Studio partnered with Critical Role, and Critical Role is comprised, if you haven't heard of them, of several folks who are extremely talented voice actors. It's just amazing listening to them. I've seen some of their videos on YouTube, and it's so fun to watch them just all of a sudden be a chameleon and go into a certain character that they're assigned to perform. And so it was really neat to kind of learn a bit about that, where these two companies came together and they wanted to make a game, and they did so by leaning on their respective strengths. And I also, before I forget, I found this particular post that I wanted to share with you. Let me switch over to my screen here. Forgive the insane amount of Chrome tabs I have open, but this is something that I think is worthy of mention. This person has a list of things that are worth talking about. First of all, he says the development cycle of Dispatch was insane, with AdHoc nearly going bankrupt after the 7-year-long development process. And then this person breaks it down by saying, here's what happened. AdHoc Studio was founded in 2018 by former Ubisoft and Telltale staff. Dispatch was originally envisioned as an interactive live action, not animated. And that's what's kind of crazy too. I don't know like how I would think about that, but I can say that I'm ecstatic that they decided to go the animated route, because every scene is just chef's kiss. It just looks so good. Animated fantastically. The pandemic shut down production, so Dispatch was shelved for years. AdHoc was hired to help on The Wolf Among Us 2, which this partnership with Telltale eventually was cut. That was a bit of a bummer. Then he talks about how AdHoc decided to unshelf Dispatch and turn it into an animated project rather than live action. The Dispatch minigame was born after the shift, which is worthy of note. AdHoc had private funding, but that was pulled at a point when the industry started going through layoffs. As someone who works in the games industry, I'm very familiar with that, unfortunately. AdHoc was at risk of closure for about a year after this, so you can imagine the kind of feeling unsettled and stress of trying to figure out, okay, hey, can we still survive this? Can we have this passion project come to life? Critical Role comes in and apparently saved AdHoc and partnered with them to publish and help fund Dispatch, which I just think that's amazing. The directors saw the game as their make or break. Many people on the development team expected this to be their final ever project in the gaming industry due to the immense pressure for this to do well as their first ever release after 7 years of work. And 7 years of work, I mean, that's pretty standard for a brand new IP, especially ones that are a bit more ambitious in nature. You're looking at easily 5 years, but oftentimes it takes about 7 years. And especially given the pandemic and whatnot that everybody had to adjust for. Yeah, that's in line with what I would guess. So continuing on, Invisigal was fully designed and concepted long before Arcane had come out. The conversation inside the studio when Arcane came out became, OF, our game's gonna look terrible, because at the time we didn't really have the art figured out. The developers have heard the V comparisons. Invisigal was designed before Arcane was released. Now, before I go any further, that's also worth mentioning too, is that on social media, there have been fans of Dispatch that have kind of made a montage or even a collage of various characters that have similar traits. And I chalk it up personally to kind of trends, really. The video game industry is no stranger to this, just like any other industry. Like when Hollywood went through their lens flare craze and every movie had like an abundance of lens flares everywhere. The same can be said for the gaming industry as well, where you have different types of characters that kind of share similar types of personal attributes and so forth. Even when I was working over at 31st Union and we're working on Project Ethos, there is a particular character that, while doesn't look exactly like Invisigal, there are certain things where you could, especially with some of the other skins in the works, I could see people being like, yeah, okay. Anyway, but when it comes to being on a development team, that is something that people are sensitive to, where you're just like, ooh, like you're working on something, you're really excited about it, and then all of a sudden you'll see a competitor come out with something, and you're like, oh, okay, how are we going to differentiate ourselves? So anyway, moving right along. Even with Critical Role's funding, Dispatch's budget was tight, and the decision was made to skip an Xbox release to focus on the two most popular systems for this kind of story game, the PS5 and PC. Royd originally was part of the Z team. He was also red, as seen in the picture below on the right of Robert. So this is the picture they're talking about. I'm not sure if it's going to expand. No, it's going to stay there. Okay. Anyway, that is a really neat little tidbit of information, because I do wonder who this character and this character are in the world of Dispatch. And now we know that this was an early version of Royd, before they decided to make him more like IT support. And I think what's interesting too is there is a moment in the game where your character has the option of basically telling him how like he could be a hero, and I think that was kind of a nod to the early development of this character. Let's see, where was I? Oh, okay. So Critical Role is also invested in AdHoc's next game, which, again, I'm very curious about, given the success of Dispatch up to this point. Selfishly, I wish that they were going to kind of move right along into season 2 of Dispatch. That would be fantastic. But at the same time, I am an outsider looking in. They are the magicians behind the curtain, and based off of this game alone, I mean, the whatever kind of game that they're going to be working on next with Critical Role, I'm sure is going to be fantastic. So there is a couple more items on here that are worth mentioning. Dispatch growing into sequels and spinoffs is something that AdHoc wants to happen. Very, very cool. Dispatch, and I think I mentioned this already, has already sold 1 million copies. So anyway, they kind of end it by saying, I cannot wait to see what they cook up next. Dispatch deserves all the amazing attention. So anyway, I figure that those were some important nuggets to kind of get a good idea of some of the trials and tribulations that AdHoc Studio went through, as a lot of these like startup studios go through. And especially considering the fact that we have collectively noticed that a lot of these AAA games haven't been doing very well that have come out. A lot of these publishers and different types of studios who have been focused on AAA gaming have been met with layoffs. They've been met with studio shutdowns. It's a really sad thing to see. And so for a new entity like this to come forth and that are comprised of employees from places that are going through these dire situations, this speaks very highly of the talent that worked at these places, right? I mean, I'm a firm believer that when it comes to any given company, what makes that company special are not the walls and the ceiling of the office itself. It's the people that they hire that reside in those walls, or not necessarily in the walls, in the space that the walls make a perimeter of. Something to that effect. So anyway, this is super, super cool. I really want to also talk about some of the relationships. So in the game, there are different characters that you can have romantic relations with. And two of which, one is Blonde Blazer and the other is Invisigal. And I've already played through the game 3 times. And I am actually currently on my 4th playthrough because I just love this game. And the first time I played through it, I was making decisions based on just kind of instinct, like how would I react to something like this in the real world. The second one was I wanted to go only for Invisigal romantic relationship, and the third one was more like I want to go strictly just for Blonde Blazer, but also like really like make the best decisions possible in order to score the best ending. What's interesting is that the first time I played through the game, I went for Blonde Blazer. I think that she is one of the best superhero character creations in a long time. Not just visually, but also just her character persona is something that really resonated with me as a player, where she is, I mean, she's kind of like Captain Marvel in a way, but like she has way more charisma, way more presence, I guess you could say. I don't know. There's something about her where she's always watching out for everyone else around her. She holds herself to a certain esteem, and as a result, it ends up inspiring everyone around her. And you see that in the game where you have these heroes that used to be villains like yesterday. But every time that she's in the room with them, they kind of act a little better. They kind of, present themselves in a much more becoming fashion. And I think it's cool because she's not coming across as someone who's like a, boss lady or a Mary Sue or something like that. Even though she is the boss, she's the one who runs the ship. But she doesn't need to go down those tropes. Instead, she is who she is, she's someone who's very professional, who's very observant, very caring, wants to see people succeed, wants to set people up for success. And I think that permeates into the other parts of the team. I just gotta say a couple things. One is that there is a moment where you get to kiss her, of course, and the animation is so good. Like, I mean, Disney animators eat your heart out. That's all I gotta say. Like, you're watching this moment and the camera's panning 360 degrees. I mean, it is simply magical. Such a magical moment. The animation was really good. And I say that because oftentimes when it comes to games, there is a bit of a struggle to try and make intimate moments like that look realistic, or maybe not even realistic, but just not look goofy, because at the end of the day, these are polygons. So you got to make sure that it looks appealing as opposed to Frankensteinish. Anyway, fantastic job on that. The second scene in particular for me was when there's a certain scene that takes place where she comes to your rescue, and that entire sequence of her coming in and basically staring down the main villain of the game, who goes by the name Shroud. Once again, tremendous screen presence. But not just because, she's so strong and she's got glowing fists and her eyes are glowing and she's flying. Like, yeah, those things kind of play into it. But again, it's more about who she is. It's more about her acting in a capacity that is of moral authority or righteous conviction. She's just in there and she's just calling it like she sees it. So really, really great moments. And those are my favorites. There are plenty of other moments with that particular character that are also really fun. Switching gears back over to Invisigal. Invisigal is also someone who was really fun to get to know. And during my first playthrough, I just very naturally kind of wanted to take her under my wing. I wasn't feeling myself like growing attached to her from like a romantic standpoint, but more like I want to be able to help her out and be able to be a friend to her, that sort of thing. That was like my first playthrough. And then when I decided to go, okay, let's see what happens when I go through this. The banter is one of my favorite things. Like she sets up so many different situations that would normally be like an HR nightmare. But at the same time, the banter back and forth where Robert is able to kind of hit the ball back over the net to her again, in the same vein as like what she is starting with, is fun. It's a lot of fun to be able to go back and forth with that. So I really appreciated kind of the contrast between the two different relationships that are available within the game itself. And again, this is a testament to the animators. They have been able to really evoke a lot of emotion. And I'm not talking about like the over the top stuff, but more of like the subtle nuances. When you are studying a character's reaction to something that was said or an event that transpired, whether it was someone telling them a story or them witnessing it in person, there are these certain types of very, very small facial expressions that come out almost subconsciously, but that to other people, like when you're seeing someone, and this is in real life too, where like you can kind of get a gist of how they're reacting to any given situation. And they've really done that well. And I think too that this leans. Oh, excuse me. I have a little bit of an alarm there to make dinner, but I'm not done yet. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. Being able to have those types of moments made for a more personable experience as you went through the story, because I found myself looking for those visual cues. And of course, in the top left corner, you'll see, Mandy will remember that, or the team will remember that, or everyone will remember that, whatever it is, whether it's something that is said or done. And so again, there's just that feeling of consequence. And my hope is that if they decide to make a season 2, and hopefully they'll make a season 3, 4, and 5, my hope is that they will do what Telltale did in the past, which is basically like every time they had a new season come out, that you basically had your decisions filter on through the next season. And so that's going to make for some really juicy situations, I think, moving forward as they weave kind of the next narrative tapestry and see like how this stuff plays out. The music, by the way, is also really fitting. I really enjoyed the music. There was actually this one gal that provided at least one song. I don't know if she provided more than one or not, and I apologize because I forget what her name is. But she was the one who had a song during kind of the party scene where everybody's dancing and that sort of thing. It's a great song. And I was reading something about how she was on the verge of actually kind of giving up on her singing career because she just wasn't making any headway. And then this game has been successful, and as a result, the song has been either bought off of iTunes or it's been listened to on Spotify. Anyway, like it's completely turned her music career around, and I say congrats, good for her. I mean, that's always like a fun byproduct when like you hear about these folks who are, you know, they're striving after their passions to make it more of like a reality in terms of a career. But I mean, we've all been there. We know what it's like to have to, you know, just you keep your nose to the grindstone, but at the same time, it's just very difficult to sometimes stay motivated because if you just don't feel like you're making the type of progress that you would ideally like to make. And yeah, it can play mind games with you from time to time. So congratulations to her on that. But yeah, even the other parts of the music as well, that is more of just, you know, the actual soundtrack itself, and it fits really well too. So anyway, I say all this because this is without a doubt my personal game of the year for 2025. I want to have a little caveat just saying that I have not played every single game that has come out in 2025. So please don't hold that against me. There we go. But in terms of what I have played, this is a game that just hit all the right buttons for me. I think it is just, when I open up my PS5's game library and I'm deciding what I want to play, out of all the games I have, and I have a lot of games, as of right now, my instant go-to is just to go back into the world of Dispatch and start a new game. You know, pop open a new memory slot and have fun. And I think that speaks very highly of the game in terms of its accessibility. I think in the high production value, like I mentioned already, really speaks to having a unique visual throughout. I think the character designs are really well done. They're really fun. It's not a matter of like, oh, I like just one or two characters. I like them all. I think they're fantastic. Like I said earlier, the writing itself is some of the best writing I've ever experienced in a game. It's sharp, it's funny, it's filled with emotion. It's very human. So really, really cool. And on top of that, as if that wasn't good enough, you also have an incredible amount of voice talent that is attached to this project. And I'm just like, yes, please. That is exactly what I've been looking for. So anyway, I suppose in conclusion, if you haven't tried this game out, you should definitely go pick it up. Like I said, it's only $30. I do know that at the time of this recording, the Game Awards has just released which games have been nominated for different categories. Unfortunately, they only nominated Dispatch for one category, which I believe is Best New Indie Game. In my opinion, This is a snub because they should easily, again, I'm not saying they should win, but I'm saying at least be nominated for like best narrative, best performance. I mean, even, I'm not even sure if there's a category for like best visuals or not. I'm going to have to look through the categories, but I know for a fact that there are a number of categories that this game could have just at the very least have been nominated for, if not win the category outright. That's just one person's opinion. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I look forward to geeking out with you again next week.